So I thought, Lord be with me. Let me get comfortable. We gonna be here a while. Turn my camera off. Are we in frame? So I thought I was completely healed from my father's death, but it's funny how life works. I mean, you think you're completely healed and then you experience things that kind of trigger you. And that's why I'm not really a fan of like this trend where people say avoid all of your triggers. Well, no, because sometimes you need to be triggered in order to see what's there, in order to see what's left over. Um and I was recently triggered by something that I didn't even know was there. And this is a pattern for me. However, I never saw it the way that I do today. Um it's like, oh, I asked God, like, am I ready for this blessing that I'm asking for? And God showed me myself. He was like, here's a mirror. um and so I asked God, I said, but wait, your word you told me that you would heal me. You told me that, you are close to the brokenhearted and that my heart will be completely healed. And he said, no, your heart is healed. You just have remnants of things. You have remnants of pain left over. You have remnants of trauma left over. um and he said, your heart has been healed. We just gotta get these cycles together. Because when God is healing your heart, or at least this is for me, when God was healing my heart, I didn't have time to look at my patterns. I mean, I was completely broken, so I didn't have time to look at my patterns and evaluate um, my triggers and the way that I respond to certain situations. I didn't have time to think about those things. um, I just knew I was broken. And so yeah, God said, you are healed, my daughter. You're healed. You just have patterns that you've put up, walls that you put up, because you're so used to defending yourself. You're so used to certain patterns. Um mm. For a long time I had to defend myself. I had to be mm, I'll just say this. My father, mm, let me stop speaking so formal. My daddy was murdered by the police and they shot him, I believe 17 to 22 times, one of the two, 17 or 22 times. He was innocent. It happened in front of my whole entire family. And I was a daddy's girl. I was his firstborn. So I used to go to sleep on my daddy's chest. Like, that was my dog. So one minute, I remember my last words to my daddy is like, I love you, daddy. Don't get too turned up, because they was going to a party. Um, and then next thing you know, I'm being woken up and they're telling me, like, somebody told me I still remember everything. They had their hand over their mouth, like, your dad got, I think she said your dad got killed. She said your dad got killed. I'm like, what the heck? What do you mean? I went back to sleep because I'm only 11 years old. Um, and then I forgot to mention, I had a dream that night of him being murdered, but it was gang violence because, I'm from LA, so that's just what it is. We're kind of used to that. But I didn't know it was gonna be from the police. I didn't know it was gonna be so traumatic. I didn't know it was real. I didn't know it was real, so I went back to sleep. I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do when you find out your father, when you find out your father has been murdered? I didn't know what to do. Um, but I do remember the first thing I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, are you okay?" And she came to me. Okay, let me start over. I pulled up to where the whole situation happened, and my mom, with her green dress, I'll never forget. She walked up to me with her hands covering her mouth. She said, she didn't even get to say anything. I said, "Mom, are you okay?" She said, "No, are you okay?" Because she knew. And I recently asked my mom maybe a month ago. I said, "Mom, why did you expect me to respond like that?" She said, "No." My mom was like, "I knew how much your daddy meant to you. So I just wanted to check in with you." So I was shocked when you was asking me, "Am I okay?" Um, but at that moment, I just felt like I had to be there for my mom. I had to be there for my sisters, and then my mom. I mean, she was right next to him when it happened, so I just felt like I had to take care of her. I never saw my mama like that. I never saw my mom like that. Barely ever saw her cry. So I mean, could you imagine the shock? So I just felt like as the big sister, as the oldest sister, I got to take care of my family. That's just how I felt. So little did I know I was neglecting my own needs. I didn't know that I was kind of putting my own feelings in the back burner. Um, I was neglecting, like, my dad died too, not just my sister's dad. I mean, we all had the same dad, but you get what I'm saying? I was treating it like it happened to them. I was treating like, oh, I gotta look out for them. I don't know how they're gonna be affected. And then years later, I mean, 9 years later, I believe it was. That's when it hit, and I'm like, whoa, hold on, wait. I thought since time passed by that I was healed, and that's not how grief works. The funny thing about grief is you're gonna probably be grieving for the rest of your life, but it doesn't have to be a sad thing. Grief doesn't have to be sad. There's 6 stages of grief. There's which somebody just put me on. I talked to an elder about this, and I talked to an elder about my patterns, and she noticed that. She's like, "Have you grieved your father's death?" She's like, "I want you to look this up." The first stage is denial, anger, bargaining, uh, depression, acceptance, and then the last one, which they recently came up with, is finding meaning in the loss. And I went straight to acceptance and finding meaning. I wasn't in denial. I wasn't angry. I wasn't. I mean, of course, I experienced a little bit of anger toward the police because y'all did too much, but it's like I skipped all those stages and just got straight to the point where I got to take care of everybody else. And as I got older, I started to look for, I'm like, who's gonna take care of me? You know what I'm saying? So I started to look for love in terrible places. Okay, whatever was available, that's where I'm like, as long as you could protect me, as long as you could be, I don't know, that I just wanted that protection that a man provides, and obviously that never works. That never works. I soon realized that. Um, yeah. And I mean, of course, there's more to the story, but that's how I was able to find God. I'm like, oh, this is what true protection looks like. This is what true protection looks like. Um. So anyway, my defense mechanisms, child. I'm kind of on guard about death a lot because I don't want death to catch me off guard how it did with my daddy. Like my dad was my dad was my first death and he was my biggest death and he meant like a little girl's dad means the world to her, you know. Um so it was my first death, it was my biggest death, and it was he just meant the world to me. At least that's how it felt as a little girl. Um So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, death, you're not about to catch me off guard again. So my defense mechanisms are, for example, taking pictures of everything and everybody. I'm like, I gotta have pictures of you just in case you die. You know, I don't want, because me and my dad, we don't have that many pictures together. Back then, pictures weren't like you got to go to a certain place to take pictures. We didn't just have iPhones and just take pictures. But I take pictures of everything and everybody because I don't want to be caught off guard. I want pictures with you just in case, or I want you to have pictures of me just in case. I try to prepare my family for my death. I talk about it. It probably scares them. I talk about it a lot, but I just don't want y'all to be shocked when it happens. Because one thing my daddy dad taught me is like you don't get to argue with God and say, "Hey God, hold on, let me have one more minute with this person, or let me ask these certain questions." So I try to prepare. I try to ask all my questions ahead of time because I just don't want you to die without me being prepared. I also apologize to my friends and family quick. If I make a mistake, I go reflect ASAP because I'm like, I don't want them to die or me to die and we on bad terms. So let me just get everything out now. Let me just apologize now. And it be genuine, but still, what else do I do? Um, yeah, I take pictures and videos of everything. So I got like 20-minute videos on my phone. And no matter how much space it takes up, I'm like, no, I got to keep these videos. But I'm working on this. I didn't know this was a defense mechanism until recently. Another thing, if you ghost me or you go like days or something without talking to me, or you go even hours without talking to me, or let me just re-say it. If you go missing, like if I don't hear from you, I'm gonna automatically assume you dead. Like I jump straight to the worst possible the worst possible thing because I just don't want to be caught off guard. Like I'm like, death is gonna happen, so I'll be on guard already. And I know that scares people because, like, I had a friend go kind of missing, and I'm like, "Are you dead? Are you in jail? Like, are you like what's going on?" And I talked to my mom about it. She was like, "Why do you always jump to like the extremes?" And I said, "Well, because my daddy's death. Like, I didn't realize this until recently, so I've been in deep reflection." Another thing is, one prayer that I always have for God is like, Lord, please don't let my husband die. Like, please don't let him die. Don't let me get married to somebody and then they end up dying. Like, oh my God. Because I saw what it did to my mom, how it affected her. So that's one thing that I be like praying for. I be on guard for. Um, what else? When I meet somebody, if I meet a friend or something, I'm low key preparing for your death ahead of time. Like I try not to get too attached because I know somebody gonna die. Like that's just how life go. So even before I know your name, I'm like, think about think about the most traumatizing thing ever. And I feel like me preparing for your death is gonna alleviate me from the pain that it's gonna cause me in the future. So I'm like, if I know that if I know that death is real and permanent and final and sudden, well, let me prepare for it before it even happens. Let me prepare for death before it catches me off guard. Like it's gonna catch you off guard before it catch me off guard. Another thing I do is I try not to get too close to people, or okay, let me say this. I give a person or people, I give my friends my all, my friends, family, relationship. I give people my all so I don't have no regrets. Like, well, I gave you my all just in case something happened to you. Like, I don't want to feel regretful. Um, or I don't get too close to you. Like, it's either or. You either give my all or nothing. um, and the reason why I don't, sometimes I don't know, I just don't like getting attached to people and things. And my friend told me this the other day, and I didn't realize that. She was like, girl, you so good at detaching. And it's just like, what other options do we have? Like, am I supposed to attach myself? Of course, I've had moments where I'm like trying to latch on to something. Um, but even those moments have taught me